Welcome to The Disappearing Mind, a unique podcast helping you find clarity and support along your dementia journey. Now, join National Dementia Trainer and Coach Dawn Platt for an all-new episode.
Hello and welcome to the Disappearing Mind podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Platt. Thank you for coming back to our series on the stigmas around dementia. I have another guest today that I'm excited to talk with, to dialogue with. Today's episode title is The Long Goodbye, Grieving the Loss After Dementia. I hope that you are finding this series very helpful to you. I encourage you to listen and look at all the episodes we have available. But let's go ahead and talk about this personal, emotional side of dementia care. And I want to welcome my guest, Mary, who is the daughter of a woman who recently passed away with vascular dementia. So it's not been a long time. And today's episode is a tender one, close to my heart, as I've shared my mother's own story with you. This wasn't just a loss of a parent. It was a long, complex goodbye that unfolded over a few years, probably not several years, but this journey included for Mary searching for a diagnosis, navigating behavioral changes, and trying to access care that works. So grief doesn't always begin at the end. For many families, it begins the day something changes. And Mary, being personal friends with her mom, I think that was the case for her. This continues in waves well after the goodbye. So I want to get into this. Mary, thank you for joining us on the podcast today. Welcome.
Happy to be here, Dawn. Thank you.
I want to take a moment for you to kind of just set up a little bit overview about your mom's story. And then I want to get into this with you and really talk about grieving and this goodbye. So tell us a little bit about your mom.
Well, my mom was a wonderful woman. She's 30 years older than me. And I was an only child. And she was very good at reminding me that I was the absolute most important thing in her life. Growing up, I just had the most wonderful childhood with her and my dad. The kind of childhood that people would really envy, the kind of relationship with my parents that everybody wanted. Most, if not all, my friends called my mother Mom. That's how much they adored her. She was just that kind of person that you could like, and very warm, inviting, kind, give you the shirt off her back. The kind of person that I think all of us would want to be. I found myself very close to her my whole life. She moved to Florida about 30 years ago. I moved to Florida after I graduated from college and was so happy to be down here. I got married, had my son in 2008. Sadly, my mother had a stroke in 2005 and was very fortunate that it did not affect her too greatly, other than she did have to walk with a cane because her left leg didn't function quite appropriately. But other than that, made it through pretty well. Then found out she was diabetic and had various health challenges to navigate, but really did it with flying colors. And we had a wonderful life for quite a long time. Throughout the 20 years since her stroke, however, there were signs that I saw that were personality changes. As the years wore on, she got a little bit more short with us. There were times when maybe she was a little more overwhelmed, and we started to see changes in her personality, more so in the last 5 to 10 years.
Your mom had vascular dementia, but let's talk about, as you look at it now, I know for myself, when I was in the caregiving journey in the middle of it, I had really no concept of beginning to end. It just wasn't something I looked at or thought about. And of course, I've shared that now that I do. But your mom's story wasn't incredibly long, but the journey in that period of time was a trying one. I mean, there was a lot packed into that time of your mom's caregiving journey from beginning to end. But how long from when you initially noticed until your mom passed away? What was the timeline there?
I would say roughly 5 years.
5 years. Okay. And it was emotionally packed. It was lots of twists and turns. Tell us about that. I mean, your mom had vascular dementia, and it seemed like things were going on for a long time, but she actually transitioned really pretty quickly, as I look at it, meaning changes. Did you see it that way, or am I just seeing that way as a professional?
No, I agree. I think in comparison, my father-in-law passed away from Alzheimer's. His was a much slower progression. He was
Hmm.
actually diagnosed 10 years prior to his passing, and it seemed slower. My
Yeah.
mom definitely just through, for whatever reason, personality changes and things that occurred, it was like a slow roll and then just got faster and faster paced.
It was a slow roll from the impacts of what one would think about the signs and symptoms, but emotionally, it was charged. Like the
Yes.
emotional impacts. Your mom was very strong person. She exhibited emotionally control of her emotions and her independence. I mean, it shined through a lot. I think it probably shined through until the end. But how did your family, your dad, your son experience the journey differently? Each one of you was different. And the fact that your son, this wasn't his first experience at such a young age with dementia.
Yeah, my son was incredibly close with my mother. I was fortunate enough that my parents would take care of him when he was a baby. And that was by design. I had wanted to make sure that he knew my mom and dad the
Hmm.
way I knew my grandparents and had that relationship. So he was like a second son to her. I mean, everybody that knew her, she just talked about my son as if he was the apple of her eye, and I knew he was.
Hmm.
So he had a very special place almost immediately, of course. And I did too. I knew that I did. But as her dementia progressed and her paranoia progressed, the accusations became fast and furious at me and my father. I suddenly found myself losing my relationship with my mother the way it used to be. Some of the things that she said to me were unbelievably hurtful, cruel, mean,
Hmm.
rude, just really shocking, very hurtful, and confusing. You name it. I felt the gamut of emotions, wondering what is going on. And so that's where I did everything I could to start to try to understand what was happening and why with my mom.
Hmm.
And on the side of my son, she was not accusing him, but she would talk poorly about me to him. And
Yes.
she would talk poorly about my father to him, which was very difficult. It
Hmm.
was difficult on him.
Hmm.
He's 16 now, so he was 11 when this started. It was very upsetting to my father. Yeah, it was a strange dynamic for sure.
You were so close to your mom, and the description of your mother that you give is, I think, what any child would want to describe. But over a 5 year period of time, your mom was a little different than what we see in Alzheimer's disease and the long goodbye. But what you faced was actually more trying, like the emotional. You went from the June Cleaver type mom, the mom that was there, the mom that was close, the mom that was a friend, the perfect grandmother, all of those things, to someone that would have been your worst nightmare. I mean, it was night and
Hmm.
day, and it had to be so emotionally difficult for you to even believe that this was your mother. How did you cope with that? I mean, did you ever use those words like I did? Who is this person or anything like that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it did feel like losing her without her passing away.
Yeah.
I think, we've used the term ambiguous loss
Yes.
for sure. I could no longer go shopping with her without arguing. It was difficult to go to lunch with her without her getting combative. It was difficult to hang out with her. And these were all things that I did with her. I mean, she was my best friend. That was getting really, really difficult to deal with. And I had to start to let go and understand that the person that I knew in the past was not the same person that was sitting in front of me anymore. And also because of everything that was going on, I had to help her and sort of focus on that and not focus on what I was losing.
Mm-hmm.
But in the moments when you're alone, you come home after a long day. I was at work and she would text me terrible things, and the police were calling me, and just all kinds of really difficult behaviors she was exhibiting that were resulting in these terrible situations. When you get home at night, you remind yourself, like, oh my gosh, this is the mom that I used to, go on vacations with. And we had to stop doing vacations.
Mm-hmm.
We had to stop a lot of the normal things that we did, not because necessarily she couldn't do them,
Yes.
but because we didn't get along while we were doing them. And it was causing such dismay and disruption and dysfunction in our life as a family that we had to stop doing those traditions. We used to drive to Wisconsin and we all got in a fight on the last trip, and
Mm-hmm.
she took off into the mountains and her phone was dead. She went the wrong way. It was nighttime, and my dad and I were together in the car. We were two cars, and we sat on the other side of the mountain praying at a Starbucks at 9:30 at night that she would show up somehow,
Mm-hmm.
some way that we would get with it. It was frightening. So we couldn't do those things anymore, and it was really very, very disheartening and sad for all of us.
So you lost your mom, you lost family traditions, but there was something else you did that I'm going to note and I want to talk about, because true caregivers like you and I, we do this. That I don't know where we get the strength to do this, but you lost all of those things, but yet you became the one who protected dad, and you became the one who protected your son, all while dealing with this loss and protecting your mom. How'd you do that?
Well, I guess I dug deep. I loved her. You have to put your anger aside. You have to look past what you're dealing with, and you really have to educate yourself. I think that's why it's important to be part of support groups or reach out to those that are experts in this disease and understand what's
Mm-hmm.
happening with
Yes.
with your loved one.
Yes.
That's what I did with my mom. And just understanding everything that was going on with her allowed me to compartmentalize
Yes.
and really kind of draw a line where, okay, this is new mom, and I can't change it. I have to accept it, and I have to do what I can to help her because it's very clear she's losing the ability to help herself.
I know you can say that now. How'd you come to that conclusion, or were you able to say that? And I'm going to talk about something I remember, and it kind of impacted me because I'm older than you are and I'm experienced in this. But even with my mom, I sought help for things I know and I've done for years as a dementia practitioner. But there was something that you talked about. And so let me kind of set it up. You are not an older caregiver. You are still young. You are still have a career. Your son was young. I mean, you're a fairly young person and you kind of look for support, but how'd you find support for your age group and for your particular needs? Because I know that you aren't going to ask the same questions as a spouse who's 70, who's been with their loved one for 50 years or something. How'd you navigate the type of support that you needed?
You and I talked a lot because I do
Yes.
know you. uh, your expertise, understanding the disease and what's happening and how it happens and how it unfolds, I think was a real pivotal point in my understanding of what was going on. I suspected it. I didn't ever get a diagnosis, but if it looks like a duck and, talks like a
Yeah.
duck,
Yeah.
it's a duck, right? And I talked a lot about it with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I was open. I wasn't going to hide what I was going through,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I sought help. And I also joined a great support group actually online on Facebook.
Yes. So you searched for a while to find the right one, didn't
Yeah.
you?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. It has 90,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was 5 years ago. I think once I started seeing other people's stories and what they were dealing with, you do start to see the patterns and you realize that the whole thing about a support group is that you're not alone, but it also enlightens you to things that could happen. You become a little bit more prepared
Yeah.
about certain situations and understanding what's coming down the road.
Exactly, exactly. I loved how you navigate that and you found the one that fit you. And I heard you share stories about that with others. And I think that that's important for our listeners to know is that if you aren't connecting with a particular support group, keep looking. There's lots of them out there online and live and in person, but find the one that fits your particular need.
I just want to mention my support group allows you to post anonymously.
Mm-hmm.
So there were times when I didn't want my mom to see, for some reason, she knew I was on this. So I could post anonymously and ask a question. So that's a nice thing about online support
Yes.
groups through social
Yeah.
media
Yeah.
versus going to in person. Sometimes if you're intimidated
Mm-hmm.
or you don't want to do the in person, I think the online is a great alternative option.
Absolutely. I mean, we all want to ask the question, but we also want to guard and protect our loved one and make sure that we're not exposing them in any way. That's good advice. But let's turn this a little bit and kind of get into, let's talk a little bit about the in life stage in regards to your mom. And it was a little bit different, I will tell you, than I normally see. You can get into that. But what did those last few months look like for your family in regards to your mom? Tell us about that.
Well, my mom struggled quite a bit with UTIs and they got worse. And it's worth mentioning that through my knowledge, and I'm sure you would, you can talk more on that, but UTIs are very common. And then they also can sort of add to the disease. She would act even more confused when
Mm-hmm.
she got them.
Yeah.
She was out of it. It was scary. You often thought she was passing away. She didn't want to go to the hospital. In the last 5, 6 months, she was in and out of the hospital with UTIs doing antibiotic treatments. There were, I would say, starting in around Thanksgiving, she passed away in March of 2025. I would say Thanksgiving, I started to feel worried that she could pass away at any time. I didn't understand really what was going on with her. It was difficult. She was in a nursing home, difficult to kind of get some information that way.
Yeah.
We had a guardian that was very helpful. They don't do full workups on people.
Sure.
So sometimes I wondered, is there something else going on? Does she have cancer somewhere? Or,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was difficult to get her to go to appointments because it was a big ordeal. So we struggled with her, and you could see she was declining quite a bit. When we visited her on Thanksgiving, we practically had to feed her. In December, however, she kind of did a spring back, and we got a very good gift where she was able to come to my house and spend Christmas with us.
Oh my goodness. Tell us about that.
I arranged to have transportation because she was not doing well in cars. She was
Mm-hmm.
getting violent and she would be really dangerous in a car. So she was at the nursing home and she would act up with any kind of change. So I arranged for transportation to her for her to come to my house, and it was my new house, and she had seen it. I don't know if she remembered seeing it. They called me ahead and said, she's putting up a fight. This was so not like my mom. Christmas was like my mother's playland. I mean, just right up to the end, it was sad thinking like, gosh, if this had been a healthy mom, she would just
Yeah.
be so excited and thrilled to be getting dressed to come to my house for Christmas. But no, that's just where you see the disease taking
Mm-hmm.
over, right? Where
Yeah.
she doesn't want to come because she's looking at what's in front of her in that moment and she's not going to do it and she's spitting at him and they get her in the car and it's kind of a funny story. They get her to the front. They call me ahead and they're like, I don't know, she's having a hard time. And I said, well, it's all right. Just do what you can,
Right. Right.
take your time. She gets here and she rolls in and my son's account of it is that she flips two birds at all of us. And then she says, is this your house? And I said, yes. Well, it looks like, and then it was an expletive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I laughed and I said, oh, Mom. I said, it's always nice that you're so honest. Again, this is not like my mom, my old
Yes.
mom. I always used to say my old mom. My old mom would say, God, this place is beautiful. Look at what you did. I'm so proud of you. Oh, and she was a real estate agent. So, I mean, my word, looking at a house was always her favorite thing to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
again, you see these moments where they're not who they are. But she ended up calming down. She ate dinner with us. I mean, it really was a gift from God. And
Yes.
she sat with us and we had a wonderful afternoon. I had to arrange for transportation for her at 4:30. That was hard and sad.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never had to have a short period of time at Christmas with her,
Yes.
but she was starting to get a little silly and squirrely.
Yeah.
And we knew it was probably best for her because even my dad said, she gets like this and then she'll get belligerent and
Mm-hmm.
she'll decline and then our night is, over. So we knew that short period of time was just enough and it was a wonderful gift that I'll never forget. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great story. I mean, you knew your timelines then and you really made changes for your mom. It becomes about doing shorter things and having those moments that you will never forget. You had a moment, you had a visit with your mom, and it was your last visit, and you didn't expect it to be your last visit, but you went through some emotion at that. And then I want you to move forward to how you feel about it now. So tell us about your last visit with your mom.
she seemed really good. Shortly after Christmas, she fell and broke her hip. I guess I wasn't thinking about what typically happens to people after they have that happen. I don't think I even it really dawned on me that she could be gone in a short period of time. Not that that's the case for everybody. When I visited her, maybe 10 days before she passed away, she was sitting upright in a wheelchair. She looked really nice. She was interacting with me, and she asked if Chase was there, my son, and seemed good. I was happy to see her in that state. There was no indication that that would be the last time that I would see her.
Yeah. You had a moment with her as well. You did something personal for her. You want to share what that was?
Yeah, I noticed that her toenails had gotten kind of long and so I tried to clip them for her
Mm-hmm.
and she had been kind of cantankerous about this kind of thing. We'd have podiatrists come and try to clip her nails, and she
Yeah.
never wanted anybody to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that was a nice moment that she actually let me do that for her.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think that was a setup, a memory that you might feel different about now?
I never thought about that, but now that you say that, yeah, I think that was a nice moment that I can cherish for sure. Again, it's like such a simple thing, right? That you
Yeah.
don't think about until
Yeah.
after the fact, like you said.
Absolutely. So you were able to make, a few better memories, not the original memories before mom got dementia, but still a few that weren't happening a lot prior to that time that you'll be able to keep and have in your heart. I know that after that visit, you were away on a business trip and then came back and your mom had passed away. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I had come back on a Friday, and I think my dad had gone to see her on a Saturday. We kind of made it a routine that we would go see her every day, every other day. I had been tired recovering from the trip and felt that he could go and see her that day. And then I had intended to see her on Monday, but on Monday morning, I got the call on the way to work that she, had passed away. Yeah, there was a lot of emotions around that, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
I had been gone for a week and not seen her.
Yeah. Do you still feel the same as you did on that initial call? Do you still feel guilty, or do you have
Um,
any of those feelings now? Look back.
you know, I have felt guilty about a lot of things, and yes, I felt really bad and
Mm-hmm.
sad. But in fairness, I've talked about before getting help and support. I have a very good support network. And I was reminded that I wasn't called. There wasn't a phone call that came and said, we think
Yeah.
she's gonna pass away, there were no indicators. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned, the last time I saw her, she was doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So I've let myself off the hook in that respect. It's not as if I said, well, I got to finish this trip,
Yeah.
knowing that this was going to happen. I have accepted that there are things in our life we just can't control. Death, especially, is one of them. And I have to let myself off the hook a little bit on that one. But yes, I think what's really comes up more is just the guilt of everything. Did we, my dad and I talk frequently. Did we do the right things? Did we
Mm-hmm.
have her in the right place?
Yeah.
Are we sure that's what she passed away with? Was anybody there? What was it like for her? You go through all of that.
Yeah.
It's awful. And it's just, my therapist says it's a way that we create unconscious self damage. We beat ourselves up in ways that are unhealthy, that don't do us any good, because you can't rewrite the past. You can't change what you did or how you did it. And you have to have faith that you did everything you could the best way you could when you were faced with it at the time. You can't Monday morning quarterback these things.
Yeah.
I think everybody has different levels of guilt. I know
Mm-hmm.
my dad deals with, I think, a lot more than I do, maybe as a spouse,
Yeah.
maybe because of just whatever his support is around him. But we talk a lot. But yeah, and then I noticed, like, I have a friend who had somebody pass away recently that didn't have dementia, and they feel guilty too. I think this is kind of the collective human
Yeah.
experience.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, it's just the fact that we have a hard time accepting when people pass away,
Mm-hmm.
and we think that we can do something different. I mean, my dad discussed with me about the superhero syndrome, almost like I didn't get there in time to save her.
Yeah.
I shoulda, coulda, woulda this,
Mm-hmm.
all these really terrible things we say and do to ourselves that, as I mentioned before, are just really unproductive.
Is there anything that surprised you about how you grieved or how you're grieving? I mean, until we grieve, it's not an experience that we have. Is there anything that surprised you at any stage? And you're still early in the process. I shared my grieving on a podcast, and I was kind of surprised that I
Yeah.
didn't have it immediately. Tell us about your scenario.
So it's strange with dementia, right? As a caregiver, there's a level of relief,
Mm-hmm.
both for yourself and for the person.
Yeah.
I hated seeing my mom the way she was, because I knew my mom, as I say, my old mom, would have never wanted anything like that to happen to her
Mm-hmm.
had she had the ability to control it. I know that she was not happy. I think she was very uncomfortable, and I was feeling like this is really not the kind of life that she wanted for herself. So there was that part. I shared early on in my support group online that I feel there's two chapters to grief, and I got well over 1,000 responses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll share it here. Chapter one is the ambiguous loss, what you're dealing with
Yeah.
when they're getting dementia and losing them, and slowly losing the relationship, losing what you had with them, losing all the fun times you can do with them. And then chapter two is after they've passed. Now you realize you've lost the whole person, and dealing with the permanency of it, and knowing that it's starting to think about the other parts of their life that you had sort of compartmentalized and maybe put away while they had dementia in order to just survive. So for me, what I started to have the hardest time was I went into a Facebook Messenger that I had with my mom of conversations 2018 and kind of earlier,
Mm-hmm.
when she was completely healthy. And I really felt a lot of pain, because in that moment it was, oh my God, that's who's gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was very, very difficult and incredibly sad, because, like I said, in order to survive the dementia and survive all the hurt and the pain that she was sort of thrusting at me, I had to I had to put that away and focus on the person I had in front of me. And then in her passing, it all came back. And then I realized how much I had lost. And I still feel that constantly. I know people have said the time with dementia will go away and you'll remember who they were.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I can see that happening, although what I went through was just so disruptive.
Yes.
I don't think of her in a negative light, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge part of my life with her. But you're right. It's only 5 years out of 50 that I had with her.
Yes.
So now we've gotten out photo books. We brought a bunch of albums to her funeral. And when you start looking at her as a young woman when she first had me, and then as I grow up, you see all these old pictures. I mean, it's wonderful, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's really, really painful. It's a really hard road, this dichotomy of these two different people that you end up dealing with.
What's helping you right now? And where are you finding healing?
Well, the funeral was incredibly healing for me, being around people who knew her and loved her when she was well
Mm-hmm.
and told stories and reminded me of the life we had before, quite frankly, the hell we were living. And just allowing people to hug you, share their grief with you, understanding that you're not alone. Everybody's missing her. All people, they all hurt and they all have pain in different ways. And then there were so many people that reached out to me too that said, my dad had vascular. I lost him the same way. My mom, I mean, it was really amazing. You didn't realize how many people had been going through it as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
And that was really enlightening. And then I had friends like tell me how much they loved my mom and how much she meant to them. And it was like bringing her back to life in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But so that was really, really cool. I would suggest that anybody, whatever the religious belief is,
Yes.
have an honorary ceremony, get people in a room that supported you and knew your loved one because, yeah, it's incredibly healing to do that. And then I just allow myself to grieve. I allow myself to feel sad. I allow myself to hurt. And I know that once it's usually just a short period of time and you can go on. But knowing that it'll get a little easier with time. And like I said, understanding that she's in my beliefs, she's in a better place and she's at peace is incredibly helpful too.
Thank you, Mary, for sharing this story. I want to do one last thing before I close the podcast. I want to give you the opportunity to honor your mom in any way that you would like to do so.
Oh, that's a rough one, Dawn.
Yes.
And I want everybody to know what a wonderful person she was. And I hope this truly helps people feel better and know that they're not alone. And that, I went through such a hard time and my dad did, but what my mom went through was worse than anything that I could have ever experienced. And I just hope that through this, people understand empathy and that there's more knowledge about this disease and that this can serve as an honor to her and the struggle that she went through because I know she had a lot of shame about it, but it's not shameful. And through this work together, I hope it's enlightening people to understand that there's help out there for people like her. Yeah, I just hope it honors her in that way.
Thank you, Mary. Grief
Thank
after
you.
dementia isn't just about losing someone. It's about holding space for everything you lost along the way and everything you gained too. I want to thank Mary for her honesty and openness, for sharing. I believe it's healing to others who listen. I think her words give others permission to grieve in their own way while honoring Mom. If you listen today and you find yourself somewhere in this journey, please know you're not alone. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. And there's space here for your story too. And I hope you get to tell it. Until next time, this is Dawn Platt. Please subscribe. Please share. and listen to our podcast. I hope it helps you. Have a memorable day.
Thank you for joining us for the Disappearing Mind podcast. We hope it's helped you find clarity and support along your journey. Be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode, visit our website to suggest future topics, and share the podcast with friends and family.